Welcome to the KOFISI Connect podcast. This month we're looking at sports and business and how a sporting mindset or psychology can be applied to organisational structures to enhance team or individual performance. Well, joining me in the studio today, two people who are very well known in the sporting space, both as competitors, commentators, and fans of sport and fitness. So if you'd like to both individually introduce yourselves and give me a little bit of background about what sports you both enjoy and why. Laban, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Jojo. Appreciate it, and good to be here.
Thank you.
So on my side, it's really, rally driving. That's where I've always wanted to be ever since I was a kid, joining into motorsports. So as a rally co-driver, I've done that for about 10 years. I can say I'm now on sabbatical. But while I'm on sabbatical, I'm trying a bit of golf. And so far, so good. I'm trying to get my handicap. So motorsport and golf. Those are my two sports.
I love the phrase sabbatical from sport.
From motorsport, yes.
Motorsport.
Just for now, because suffered the risks that come with rallying, which is of course the crashes and all that. Maybe the mental fatigue, but I miss the cockpit, as we say. Right. So it's usually like a lot of adrenaline into it. So yeah, and I feel like both sports really helped me in my personal life, and I'm sure we can talk about that.
Absolutely, we're going to pick on that a little later.
Wow, rally driving, that's hard to keep up with. So my name is Vinita. I'm co-founder of Smart Gyms. I'm a health and wellness coach. I'll add a mom, because being a mom is like you're involved in sports constantly with a talk back. Yeah. So I didn't get the last question, Jojo. So how has this, what was it? I lost track.
It was what you really enjoy about the sporting world and
everything.
What attracts you to it.
Okay. So what do I enjoy about sports? I love that it's hard. I love that it's difficult. I love that every morning I get up, I get to commit to something difficult and I start early. So when I commit to that, then everything after that is easy. So the best thing about exercise is how I feel after. Mm-hmm. It helps me deal with a lot.
And what do you think are the kind of common links between sort of the domains of sport and business?
Discipline, commitment. When you commit to a sport, for instance, in my past I've been a figure bodybuilder, then I became a health and wellness coach, among other things. So when you commit to a sport, you learn to see things through. It's not about your mood. It's about your commitment. Right. So when I link sports and business, it doesn't matter whether it's good. It doesn't matter whether you think you'll succeed. It means that you've made a decision to do something and you will see it through. So it's quite easy. It's copy-paste from sports. As I do something difficult, I expect it to be difficult. Sure. In business, I expect it to be difficult in work. Sure. But because I've already seen that through, it's easy.
And especially being an entrepreneur like yourself, I mean, you've got to be, committed. You have to have your own motivation. You have to have your own drive. I think that
it drives through it. Am I an entrepreneur per se? I guess in many ways. Okay. I say I'm co-founder, so it's simply copy-paste of one unit to something else. But as you say, of course, I can use COVID as an example. Having to reinvent yourself when you think things are going good and easy is challenging. But because you already do that daily with an exercise, you're not making improvement. I'm sure you can relate as a rally driver. You don't know what the course will look like. Or now an avid golfer. You're not sure about what to expect. But what you do know is that if you commit to it, you'll see it through.
And Laban, how about you?
Wow, I like that, Vinita. The discipline and really just trying to apply that in the business world. That's on the perspective. There's a buzzword around corporate right now, which is agility, mental fitness and mental health and all that. And all these therapists who are left, right, center being sent to the HR to try and say, hey, can we now do a bit of counseling with this? And I feel like sports really is a medicine towards this. And I'm saying that because even So from rallying, and as much as I said it's a risky sport, I mean extreme sport and quite risky as well, aside from parenting, it's the True. Side of, you don't know how the roads are going to be, but of course there's a safety aspect into it, where that safety, where you strap in, they're like 5-point harness safety belts, you have a roll cage inside there. It shows the preparation that goes in before you have a hard task ahead of you. And I'm saying that because you can be in that car for like 3 days straight while you're on a whole weekend of a safari rally. And we're happy as Kenya, of course, we have the World Rally Championship that is here. And they say it's the world's toughest rally. So you can imagine right here in Kenya that we have that sort of an experience. But that preparation kind of also helps your mind train itself in terms of like, for sure you're going to face headwinds, be it starting a business, be it going into corporate and having to deal with the board and reporting to the board the financial numbers. But you prepare yourself to make sure that, hey, you know what, whatever it takes, I'm ready for it. And what we say actually in rallying, it's foot down. You have to just be committed. From when the flag goes down, you have to be foot down, pedal to metal to just go on. And there's no time for snoozing.
Yeah.
I know when you say, you're up in the wee hours of the morning.
Yeah.
At times you say, let me switch off the alarm clock. There's no time for that. So if it's 4 a.m. in the morning, it has to be 4 a.m. you're in the gym. Or 4 a.m. you're up and 5 a.m. you're in the gym. So those are the aspects that you just try and apply in the and then apply in the sports. For golf, it's just to get a balance, because at times it's never too serious at times, but there's always there has to be a balance. And I'm saying that because when there's all this conversation about agility, when there's all this conversation about mental fitness, I mean, taking a walk around an 18-hole golf course, what sort of therapy do you need other than that of nature, that of birds chirping, that of you just watching your ball fly through the greenery? And we have some of the best golf courses in the region. So I think a lot of the stress, a lot of the therapy needed in corporate Kenya can be reduced if people golf. Well, I know it's also not quite affordable to many, but if you just take a walk as well.
Or move
around, just do something, gym perhaps. So it's not been scientifically proven, but I can speak as somebody who has been in a very, very tough work environment and still am in a very tough work environment. I know for sure anytime you just take a weekend off and say, you know what, I'm not just sleeping, I'm actually going out for a round of golf. That really helps.
So you're participating and improving yourself.
It's interesting what you say about golf, because my husband actually gave up golf because it was so stressful.
That's what I was going to say. It's not as easy as golfers make it sound easy, but it's quite a hard sport.
When you end in the, what is it, in the pit, in the rough,
sand,
in one of the
bunker,
and one of the bunkers, exactly. I mean, he spent hours, I think, in there longer. I think he sort of found himself a couple of times over. But I mean, I think, and also it's what is quite interesting, both is as you're both involved in sort of, I suppose, individual sports or individual kind of fitness, whereas. I suppose if you're thinking about a team sport, those are also elements which are very important for business. Communication, team unity, I suppose morale boosting for teams. So, for those elements of team sports can be really brought into kind of the workplace to sort of empower and engage employees. I mean, I used to play netball.
Did you like it?
And lacrosse. Interestingly, I prefer tennis, and so like you two, I'm very much like to be in control of it.
Yes. I was going to say
my own
that.
Destiny.
I was going to say that team sports are good per se, but with the team you have the excuse of relying on somebody else to pick up your slack. That's a bit of teamwork. When you do it as an individual, it's you on you. So each time you break down, you break yourself down and you rebuild different and you learn different things about you before you present it to somebody outside of you. Whereas with a team, I feel we have a strategy, which is like if you're leading a team, this is what we're going to follow, this is how we're going to go about it. Yeah. But I can delegate. You can't delegate your work or your self-improvement to somebody else. When you get up in the morning, it's you who has to do it. And then now, you can bring it in. I don't know if it makes sense.
On the other side as well, the team side really helps. Like I remember good old days, high school, getting to rugby. I was one of the best high schools in Nakuru County, and I was the best, rugby team, There's that, and also there's a bit about basketball. And you could see that, the ruffians, as we call them, they move in a pack. Like they're always together. They would help each other in and out of the pitch. So you can see, these guys are actually very close. Yeah. Even within the classwork, they'll come together and say, hey guys, you remember we missed out on Friday class because we had to go for an event, but they'll sit, in the wee hours of, say, Saturday, Sunday, trying to just catch up with. And I like that what they would do in the course and the pitch would actually apply to
Translate.
them in that class. So much so that I, regretted, because at times I was into swimming, again, an individual sport, in high school. But I could see the rugby team always hang out together. The swimming, basketball team, they'll do sort of things together. So I like that it rubs off. It rubs off. Most of the companies, of course, top 2 companies that are sponsoring a lot of sports here, KCB. Safaricom. Most of those, players either work for them as well, or they relate a lot with the corporate. So they'll be like, okay, guys, where are we playing this weekend? And it becomes more like a team building. So yes, we're working, but we also play for the company team.
Yeah, that's a nice way of
and
looking
it's
at
it's a good way to just bring that morale boosting that's needed, in the organization.
I mean, I think that's. I mean, I know that within the content team, which we run, it is very much teamwork. Everybody has their part to play, and if one part of the corner kind of falls down, then the rest of the teams are sort of, we rely on each other, which I think is, is
great,
is a good thing. But it's it is, and it's all about making sure that we're closely located, we're communicating well. I think it's, and I've learned all about that from my netball.
Fantastic, yeah.
So what about sports training or coaching? How have you, I don't know if you've received any sort of formal training or coaching that you might have applied to the sort of business world?
100%. I mean, like for rallying, there's always the folks who've done it, and they're known to it. You're talking about the Carl Tundos from Nakuru as well, the Ian Duncans, the Aza Anwars. They're the people who, let me say, they're the fathers of
Nakuru has done a lot.
Yes, I'm very proud of my home county. So we see then a lot of need for these guys to apply and help the next generation of rally drivers. So what they'll do is that they'll just help. So ideally, and it's funny that we're just talking about the corporate Kenya today. You want to just get in the microwave generation, get into corporate. You want to be CEO tomorrow.
Yeah.
From a management trainee, you want to be CEO. But guess what? From the bit about coaching in sports, if you want to be a rally driver, they'll actually start you off from being a mechanic or from being a volunteer mechanic. Yeah. So what that involves is the cleaning the tires, knowing the size of the rims, making sure the tire pressures are okay. And that's just mundane. In fact, if you go into the workshop and you're given such a role, you'll be like, no, I just want to drive tomorrow. But the tires are your only contact to the ground. If you don't understand what tire pressures are needed to get you on the 3-day of rallying, then you're not business being in that space. So I am humbled to have received coaching from Aza Anwar, who was just like, come into the team, label all the spare parts, knowing which part goes where. Because when you need to change a part or you need to change a shock absorber within 20 minutes, believe you me, your mechanic can does it in 2 days. But there's a team that can actually change a shock absorber within 20 minutes or less, because of understanding which spanner goes where, which the bolts to the entire first in and everything. So all that, it's basically ground up. Now imagine starting from that and then coming to corporate and saying you want to be you cannot be CEO tomorrow. Yeah. So you have to understand the nuts and bolts of the organization, because by the time you're sitting there and you have a bird's eye view of the organization, you already know that what's going to happen. So coaching is really important, and I mean I now want to lower the ladder down to now ask, okay, who wants to be a rally driver? Can I help somebody do co-driving? Because that's my space.
And I think and it's just as much about attitude as well, because if somebody doesn't want to do that, doesn't want to start with the grafting, then actually it's it's sort of slightly a reflection, I think, on their willingness, I think, to sort of engage, to learn as well, because life is all about
learning and unlearning. Yeah.
True.
I'd say, so in regards to coaching, I'd say my first coaching came from my parents, because the level of discipline I have, I credit a lot to my dad. Okay. We have 5 children. He told us right from when we were young how to do things. My parents wake up early, and it kind of dribbled down. The second or third person I'd credited to, then I was away. I was in Canada where I did my bodybuilding. So it would go to the first person who was my trainer. I've always been passionate about sports, but it took time to work on me. And the change that translated into how I studied and what I did, I credit to him. That's Vince. The third person, I worked in a coffee shop. So that's my third coach. He showed me how to take in information that people give you and how to learn to leave it behind, not take it personal. So those three credit a lot to where I am today, because I've learned, one, from my parents, discipline of time. Second, from my coach, discipline over your body. If you know how to train and work in what you need to get done, it translates down to the office. I know what is needed with my team and how to teach them that. With the coffee shop, the same thing. I can learn and unlearn as many times. It doesn't have to be perfect.
And that's a story.
Those are the three coaches I've had.
Because people will see is just smart gyms and co-founder smart gyms, and that's it.
Yeah.
But they don't understand that there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes.
A lot.
And I feel like that's why social media can be deceiving at times.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to know the person. And I always like that question every time I have talks and I'm just trying to mentor the folks out there, and I'm like, okay, so what makes you tick?
Yeah.
And then you tell them, it's like you're giving them behind the scenes recipe.
Yes.
It's like, forget about what's online. Let's talk about you. What makes you tick? And I'm like, I want to know the story of the coffee shop. I want to know how that impacted on your business.
That's the thing. A lot of I keep the biggest thing I tell people is everybody can teach you something. It doesn't have to be investing in an executive coach or that. Just watching how, why, especially because I was 18 years old. And having somebody in my ear who actually took time to tell me, okay, don't take it personal with the client. With that, because you're like, okay, am I doing something wrong? And it's like, no, just learn to understand that people can communicate and leave it there. So, yeah. True. Learn and unlearn as many times as you need to.
Well, and also people have many forms of careers now. I mean, that's the other thing, is it's not just, you can't necessarily say, well, you studied law.
Yes.
And look at you now.
Yes. My passion won. Passion and purpose always wins.
Yes. So but it's interesting that sort of divergence of careers. It just shows that you never close any doors.
No, exactly. And I don't discount the importance of education. And everyone's like, do you regret it? I say absolutely not. No. I loved the whole experience. I loved meeting the people I studied with. I loved the professors, but my calling has always been sports, because I started running and exercising when I was in class 2. That's 9 years old. So I've always known the discipline that the sports does translates to my classwork, and I've always wanted to teach that. But I don't discount that. It was absolutely not a waste of time. I love learning and I like reading.
Actually, Vinita, there's a whole conversation. There's a whole conversation right now about sports law.
Yeah,
and I've seen the whole conversation.
Yeah, I might do my PhD in that.
Please,
who knows?
I think that's the next big thing. So yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's also I think another important thing to talk about is the mental toughness of sports people and their ability to cope with stress. And you touched on this earlier as well. Just the stress in the boardroom versus the stress in the bunker, for example, or when you've got into a hole in your rally car and you're trying to work out how to get out of it. I mean, how do you think that some of the training courses for, I suppose, the advancement of people's careers might benefit from actually stepping back and looking at some of the sports, some of the training that people use for sports mindsets to strengthen and become more resilient in that?
I think for me, it'll go back to discipline. Sports gives you a level of discipline, whether you feel like or not. I don't use an alarm. I automatically wake up at 3. I have my fourth born is now 17 months. It doesn't discount. For me, I know what I need to get done to be who I am called to be. And there's no excuse about it. Whether I'm waking up 3 times and I'm still breastfeeding or not, I know to be a better, I'll call it what it is, a boss. I was told now to say, to be a better boss and to be a better individual, I know what it takes. It means I have to first commit to doing that difficult thing. Whether I've slept or not doesn't excuse. And I think that boils down to sports from an early age. And I'm not saying you have to get into sports, put your child in sports at 6. You can get in at any age. But sports removes that edge. Sports reminds you daily that you can reinvent yourself through any form of exercise. So for me, it gives mental toughness. And people who I work with will tell you, Tracy works with me, if they can tell, if I've not exercised, you talk to me after I've exercised, because it's my time. And if it's that serious, send an email. I will read it as I exercise. Then we can have a conversation.
If I was working at Smart Gyms, then that's actually good, because then I'll know the best time to see Vinita to ask for the pay rise will be like when she's just out of a gym. So that really helps.
Absolutely. I'm high-fiving everybody. I'm like, oh my God.
Endorphins.
Endorphins.
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely. And I tell them, bring it. Start with all the bad stuff first. And I'm like, okay, this is how we're going to handle it. That's it. And then I'm like, say that the rest after. But I've done something hard. So I know it won't be as difficult as I thought. After I have made the first commitment. So sports does that for you. And I see a lot of athletes saying similar things.
Yeah. And Laban?
You mentioned about executive coaching and knowing how to manage upwards, because even as a CEO, managing upwards is a board. People should not forget that every corporate leader also has a boss somewhere, and they have shareholders you're reporting to.
Absolutely.
So then it's good to know that your boss, these are some of the points that work for her, for him, and then you try and work around that. On my side is, yes, executive coaching is good.
Yes.
It's pretty expensive as well. But I cannot compare the learnings I get practically from the sport vis-a-vis sitting down in a boardroom, nice looking mahogany tables and seats, and you're like, okay, so tell me about what you want to do for the next 5 years. I feel like practically the sport really helps. Executive coaching can complement those lessons that you actually do you're actually learning out of the sport. So for the mental health, for the opportunity to see that you still have not lost control of the steering wheel, then you can actually complement what the lessons you actually get from executive coaching into your corporate life.
Because you mentioned mental health there as well, which is hugely topical at the moment, especially with the number of top sportsmen vocally saying that they are stepping out, of high-level sports competitions because they've had burnout. And before, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, we didn't hear that discussion.
Absolutely. And I think also now wellness in the workplace is absolutely becoming much more of a priority. So I think there's a nice balance between the two, sort of learning from each other. I don't know whether the sports.
I'd say, I know for us, everyone we take into Smart Gyms, even when we are hiring, we encourage you to start exercising. Okay. You can exercise. It's open to you. You can do it before your shift, after your shift, during your shift. If you feel overwhelmed, I know, for me, I feel like that's the solution. And because I feel it is, we translate it. A lot of conversation has been on the rise regarding mental wellness. And I don't know, for me, I felt like I had more of this after COVID. Because before COVID, it's like during COVID, that break gave people a lot of time to become more aware. Yes, introspection, exactly. And now see, this doesn't work and this doesn't. Yes. And I don't see it at all as a weakness to say that I can't cope. Because even for me, yes, I'm in sports, but I am also very self-aware. What sports has done for me, I can tell when my body is off. I can tell when to push it. And sometimes I push it just so that it submits to me, not necessarily because it's a good thing. But I also can tell when I'm not feeling okay, and I encourage people to take a break. And I think that's what mental wellness is. We have a lot more corporates reaching out and telling us, can you send a trainer? And I always ask why. Is it because they want to exercise for fat loss? Is it that you feel your staff is burnt out? Then we know which trainer we can adapt and send your way, who can cover both.
Yeah. And Laban...
for me, it's I like COVID. Let me say what it did to me. COVID helped us to slow down.
Yeah, absolutely.
So true.
Yes,
yeah,
COVID helps us to slow down. So it means then we have people who are just on autopilot. Mm-hmm. Now COVID forced us. Hey, wait a minute. No restaurant is open. Nothing. You just have to sit and ask yourself, where are you going? So personally, then it gives you like a perspective and ask yourself, okay, there's something lacking here. I need to work on this. And more people now realize that it's like there's this aspect that you might assume because maybe it's not showing off of what's happening. That's your mental wellness and mental well-being.
Yes.
And I mean, thanks to KOFISI, I mean, right now, we're not talking about saying, oh, lock yourself in cubicles, or, you want to have a space that will make you more productive, and then corporates have realized that, and they're saying, okay, wait a minute, it's okay if you just don't want to have this corner office and stuff, and you want to be around people because your energy levels really...
And you're more productive.
So be it, I have a friend who's just taken up a job, out of Nairobi, and he has a senior role, but the office says, no, it's fine. We don't need to see you in the office.
Yeah.
But pre-COVID...
You have to check in and bring your numbers. You're very right.
But as long as you are productive and, your boss knows this is what you're going to deliver, 100%. And what better way than, knowing that through what you can get out of through sport that actually complements, your rise in the corporate ladder.
I do often find that when I'm sort of feeling slightly overwhelmed, just going for a run completely clears my head. And often I come back with sort of 15 different ways of tackling any issue.
Solutions, they just kind of surface, don't they?
Sort of, I don't know whether it's the meditation or just the being in, Korea forest, sort of getting lost.
Actually,
I know, everyone gets lost in Korea, and that was like their signs.
Yeah, actually, that actually brings up another point, which corporates asking, friends who are like, say, mid-tier getting to executive management. And this guy actually feels stuck and is like, okay, how do I get myself? How did you manage to get into executive management, like at a very young age? And I tell them that at times where you get towards your education papers or your MBA, your law, your BCom degree, your journalism background can only take you so far. But now it gets to a level where you need to meet board chairman somewhere, and they can say, hey, can you be CEO in my company? And I think the golf course has really helped people. I'll not mention names, but it's just like, I just met them at a golf course or something. The gym, actually,
that's what I think about it.
Let's not forget. Yes. Also, the gym has really helped people get into the next phase, because what now happens as you're getting into senior leadership, it's like the shareholders, they want somebody they can trust and somebody they can work with. And more often than not, it always happens outside the companies. So, to that person, and I know I've spoken to folks about it, and they said, oh, no, because the thinking is different. It's not what we used to do in school and say, whoever spends 8 hours back to back, in the classroom is whoever, yes, you'll get
will
the
deliver,
agreed, but there needs to be a balance with how you network, with how you show yourself at the gym. If it's that, 5 and you're like, oh, this guy actually keeps time. So that's not a question on the interview table. It's like, I meet him at the gym and he always keeps time, for sure. For golf, if you're late for golf, you miss out on your 4-ball, So those small aspects, they're already covered by the time you're getting to the table. And it becomes more like, okay, what can you do to deliver, on your expectations?
Fabulous, guys. That's we've run out of time.
Oh goodness, that was
quite
short.
Thank you
Call
so
us back.
much. Well, of course, don't forget we've got the Sports Mentality and Business panel
on 28th, which Laban said he has something to say.
Absolutely.
I'm sure it's going to be off.
Looking forward.
Yes, so set that in your diaries.
Looking forward.
September with Laban, and more details hopefully will emerge about how to use a sporting mindset in business. Vinita,
thank you for having us. I really
so
appreciate and giving us a platform.
Wonderful.
To engage.
100%.
And enjoy tomorrow's 3 a.m. call. Can I just quickly ask what time do you go to bed?
Between 9 and 9:30.
Okay.
So 6 hours. So you make sure.
And it's gotten better. When I was younger or before my kids, it didn't matter. I could go out and automatically know by 3 a.m. still doing this. It's one of those things.
Amazing.
That you commit to. But it really is important. I'll just add on really quick. And this, I'll speak as a mom or as a partner. I don't know if you have kids, but it's very important to... congratulations.
Thank you.
So it's very important to own your time. For me, I feel even it makes me a better partner, wife, a better mother. So when I get up when the house is asleep, by the time everyone is awake, I've managed. I've ticked off. I've done my Bible meditation. I've done emails. I've exercised, and they have breakfast. And my firstborn wakes up 4:30. Then it goes on 4:35, 5:30, and it's just 100%. Done. But now even for them, it's becoming automatic. So it's 4:30. I know my third born, so I was like, can I wake up at 3? And I tell her, no, there'll be a time for that. You know?
So perfect CEO mentality.
Mummy needs her time.
Yeah, you do. So that it makes you, it's just important. And you can visualize your day front and back.
You imagine
and see the hiccups,
what happens at a corner office and how busy it gets. I mean, you have all these paperwork, emails and everything. I like that. You need that bit of meditation.
You do before
everyone comes into the office at 8. So
and
if you check in at 6,
you have it.
I'm going to try it. And
please do, Judge, and give me feedback. You will love it.
Absolutely.
You can teach yourself as many times as you wish to.
Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, you can.
Extreme sports.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.